Welcome. Thank you. So today we have a special two-part session. First, we'll do Able United 101, discuss everything you need to know about Able accounts. And then we'll have Samantha Lebron, who's a brand ambassador for Able, come on and do a little Q&A session with her. So thank you, Samantha, for joining, and we will see you back here in about 30 minutes. Awesome. Great. So I should be sharing my screen hopefully now. Can you enable me to share my screen? And while we're working on that, let's go ahead. If you haven't used Zoom in a while, there is a ability to do Q&A. And I believe we also have a poll. Is that correct? Are we doing a poll? There we go. So hopefully you've seen a poll pop up, and it's a simple question to ask how familiar you are with Able accounts. This will help guide my portion of the presentation for about 30 minutes and see how much information you need to know. So how familiar are you with Able United? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, or maybe this is the first time you've heard of the program. So thank you for joining. So I'll give everybody a few moments to answer that. All right, let's go ahead and close that. Now, are we able to share that poll to see what the results were? All right, so a pretty good mix here. 66% somewhat familiar, but followed by 22% not familiar at all. And those of you that are very familiar, wonderful. Well, hopefully by the end of this brief presentation, you'll have everything you need to know. But the plan is to present this 101, bring on Samantha to kind of get her perspective as a brand ambassador and an actual account holder, and then hopefully leave time for questions and answers. So if I don't answer your question during the brief presentation, feel free to go ahead and use that Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we can. So let's talk about Able United. So if you've been in the disability field before or have worked in this in some time, you know everything is an acronym. So ABLE is an acronym. It stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And it's brought to us based on a piece of federal legislation that passed in December 2014. So some 8 years ago now. And it added a new section to the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A, which allowed states to create tax advantage savings and investment accounts specifically for the disability community. And it encourages individuals to start saving, putting money aside, and then help use those funds to support their health, independence, and quality of life. So this product is similar to other financial products you might have heard of, a 529 savings account for college educational expenses, a Roth IRA, or even a special needs trust. But we'll talk about how ABLE is different. Here in the state of Florida, we passed the Florida Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, which created Able United, which is the program name, is a not-for-profit and direct support organization of Florida Prepaid College Board. So if you've heard of Florida Prepaid or Florida College Savings Plans, that same entity is also running the state of Florida's ABLE program called Able United. And we launched July 1 of 2016. Now, I want to just put a clarifying thing. We are not able to trust or have able trust accounts. These are ABLE accounts. So Able Trust has been around for a couple decades now. They are an employment-focused organization providing opportunities for successful employment for Floridians with disabilities. And they partner with a lot of those organizations across the state. Able United is savings focused. So we are Able accounts, not Able Trust or Able Trust accounts. And we're really focused on saving. So who's eligible to actually open, maintain an account, and who can actually have an account? So to be eligible for an Able account, the individual must have 3 requirements. One is unique to Florida, is that you have to be a Florida resident at the time you apply. You also, these two next requirements are true for all ABLE programs across the country. One is they have to have a disability with onset prior to age 26. So that disability has to be diagnosed prior to that age. Doesn't matter their age now, but having that disability diagnosis age. And also it has to be a severe disability. So either they're on SSI, SSDI, or other Social Security type benefits because they have a severe type of diagnosis or incapacity. If somebody does not meet that severity, they can do a self-certification saying, hey, I might not be receiving Social Security benefits, but I do have a significant disability that was diagnosed prior to age 26. It's causing me to have marked and severe functional limitations and is expected to last 12 months or the majority of my life. So the types of disabilities that qualify or meet that eligibility requirement of severe, the IRS did provide a listing of those types of disabilities, and they put them in some broad categories. As we talk about the enrollment process, this is going to actually ask you to select which type of disability area your diagnosis occurs in. And so that could be developmental. So if you think of autism or Asperger's, intellectual disabilities, psychiatric, so PTSD, major depressive disorder, could be nervous disorders such as blindness, deafness, or cerebral palsy, general anomalies, including Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, and other as well. And maybe if you don't know if you meet the severity, we do have an eligibility wizard on our website that can be used to help guide you in that process. Also, what's unique about ABLE accounts, in case I don't mention this later, is that an individual can only have one ABLE account nationwide. So that's a different approach than other types of products, which you could have multiple savings or checking accounts, but you can only have one ABLE account. It's important to note that the owner of the account is the individual with the disability. This is their account. The money in the account is for them, but they own the funds. Now, we know not everybody can open and manage their own account. Maybe they choose not to, or maybe they have incapacity to not be able to, or maybe they're a minor. In that case, somebody else can establish this account on their behalf. They're called what we call internally as the authorized legal representative. And this is broad. This could be a legal guardian, a power of attorney, parent, spouse, sibling, grandparent, and ultimately even a representative payee under Social Security, such as an individual or organizational rep payee. It's important to know this is a hierarchy, so individuals higher up have priority to establish the account, but you can see it's pretty broad. So we've had, I've actually talked to siblings who open an account on behalf of their sibling and grandparents as well, and then we do work with organizations to allow them to set up ABLE accounts for the clients they serve that are as a representative payee. And so if you are an organization that is in that situation, please reach out to us. There's some paperwork involved to get you set up. It's not as clean and simple as our online process. So thank you for that. And don't forget, just in case, there's a chat box. If you do have questions, please enter your questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll get to those as we go along. So now that we talked a little bit about the history of ABLE accounts, why they exist, who they're for, we're going to touch a little bit on how they work with public benefits. This is one of the big advantages of an ABLE account. Previously, most individuals, if they were on Medicaid, supplemental security income, Section 8 housing, or EBT, SNAP benefits, they were restricted on how much money they can have on hand, which is generally around $2,000. So not a lot, especially in today's time to, if emergency happens, you couldn't really use it. But we'll talk about the specifics on how this account works with these public benefit programs, specifically starting with Medicaid. So Medicaid is a federal and state match program that helps cover costs for individuals with significant disabilities or income and resource issues. The two that we're probably most familiar with when it comes to outside of Medicaid state plan, our very robust set of health services, is our home and community-based waivers, such as the iBudget waiver through the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, or long-term care, which includes, for example, our spinal cord injury um, waiver. So those provide a very robust set of services, but it does restrict individuals to only $2,000 in assets. Generally, funds in the ABLE account or even removed from it or withdrawn from it, as long as they're designated, does not count as a resource when determining eligibility for Medicaid. So a great way for individuals and families to put money aside and not impact their Medicaid eligibility. There are some recent rules in regards to what happens if somebody passes. Can Medicaid file a claim on an ABLE account? And we corrected that they can't. However, outstanding, if a person does pass, after all outstanding qualified disability expenses are paid, leftover funds would go to their beneficiary's estate. And their estate may be subject to Medicaid recovery if they were receiving Medicaid services and were over the age of 55. But that's an important thing to know. Great way to save and be able to remain eligible for Medicaid benefits. Let's talk about supplemental security income, SSI, and that is a federal supplement program. Provides a basic cash need to help pay for basic living expenses like food, shelter, and clothing. It also has a restriction of $2,000. It's the most liquid assets you could have on hand. Generally, funds in the ABLE account are disregarded when considering resource limits. There are some additional rules. The first $100,000 in an ABLE account doesn't count as a resource. So if you were able to reach that amount, anything above that would count towards that $2,000 limit. So that's something to keep in mind. And then also using this account to pay for housing related expenses or non-qualified expenses withdrawn but not expensed in the same month would count as a resource. So for example, if you're using your ABLE account to pay your utility bill and you took out money, the end of November and withheld it to the beginning of December and then paid the utility bill with those funds, that would count as a resource at the beginning of December. So best bet is just to have the ABLE account pay it directly, which you can do online or over the phone. Also important to note is income put into an ABLE account still counts as income for accounting purposes for SSI as well as IRS purposes. So that's important to note. ABLE accounts don't shelter income, they shelter assets. And we always encourage individuals, if you do have if you're on SSI or the individual you love or serve as a client, if they're on SSI, check out the PALMS manual. They do a very good job, a robust set of rules on how Social Security Administration treats ABLE accounts. That's important to know. Oh, whoa, got a little excited there. I think it's this hat. It's a little too tight. So I see there's quite a few questions in here, which is great. And we will get to those probably in the last 15 minutes of our presentation. But thank you for your questions. How does an ABLE account work? All right, so we talked about history a little bit, who's eligible for an ABLE account. Now we're going to actually talk about how the enrollment process looks and what you need. So when you go to open an account, you're not going to go to your local bank. This is a state-sponsored program. So you would go online to register, ableunited.com. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, just depending on if you have all your documentation ready. You're not going to need to submit that documentation, but you're going to need to have it available to answer some questions. So you're going to need an email address. That'll be you'll be used to log in. You need date of birth, social security number for the individual on the account. If somebody is opened this on behalf of somebody else, we're going to need their information as well and why they're able to manage or open this account. So if it's a parent doing this for a child or representative payee, you're going to have to select that. You're also going to select eligibility criteria, such as the type of disability, and self-certify that you meet the requirements. After that's been verified, you'll move to the next section where you're going to actually enter your banking information. So a lot of people connect bank accounts. There's a couple cool ways you can log into your bank account, connect it that way, or provide a routing and bank account number. There is a minimum $25 contribution to get started, as well as selecting the investments. So that might be scary for some when I said investment options. because this program is an investment or savings tool. We have 3 pre-designed portfolios to meet the needs of most investors. Those are what they call risk-based options, so conservative, moderate, and growth. They're made up of underlying mutual funds, as you see here under the fund options, such as a money market fund, U.S. stock, U.S. bond, international stock, or FDIC savings option. So when individuals contribute that first $25 or any future contributions, they get to pick and select where they want those funds to go. And so you can see additional information on our website about these investment options, which are, as you can see, managed by Vanguard, BlackRock, Bank of New York Mellon, as well as performance on our website. So check that out, ableunited.com. Under the Saves tab, you can see about performance. So how does individuals contribute funds to their account? Generally, contributed funds are considered completed gifts and not income to the individual with a disability, which is great. So maybe family, friends, an organization, a religious institution wants to contribute money to somebody's ABLE account, they can do that and not count as income. There are some limits. It's $16,000 per calendar year, and that's from all contributions combined. That's going up to $17,000 next year. Individuals not saving for retirement can actually contribute above that amount and take advantage of some tax credits if they are not saving for retirement. So that's something you might be interested in checking out. Also, leftover or unused 529 college savings plans can roll over funds into this account. It's important to know individual putting their earned income or even unearned income. So for example, child support, alimony, that still counts as earned income for Social Security and IRS purposes. So once again, ABLE accounts allow people to save more or have more assets, does not reduce any penalties for making additional income. All right, now we're on to my favorite part. It's this time of year, withdrawals and spending money. The great thing is there's multiple ways to get money out of the account once an account is established. It takes 2 to 5 business days, just depending on how the funds are invested or saved. You can do that in quite a few ways. Back to one of those connected bank accounts. As I mentioned, when you first enroll, you need to have at least a bank account to connect. But after that, you can add additional bank accounts if you would like. You can move money to one of those connected bank accounts. That's the fastest way. You can request a check to be sent to you or a third party, either online or over the phone. And then finally, one of our most flexible tools is our ABLE Visa prepaid card. This is a reloadable debit card tied directly to your ABLE account, and allows you to use that debit card anywhere Visa is accepted. So great way to allow some financial flexibility as well as some versatileness of using a debit card. Some things to consider when a withdrawal is made. There might be earnings tied to that withdrawal, and those are tax-free as long as they're used for qualified disability expenses, which we'll talk about on the next slide. And then you get to choose how you want that money to come out, whether it be from the savings or the investment side. It's really up to you. Do keep documentation for the IRS and or Social Security Administration if you're on supplemental security income. We're not going to request that, but SSA could if they review these accounts monthly, and the IRS if somebody was to be audited. So as long as you keep those receipts and documentations on why it's a qualified disability expense, then you shouldn't have any issues. So what is a qualified disability expense? What can you use the funds in an ABLE account for? This is probably our second most asked question. The Treasury did provide 13 broad categories here, from anything related to health, education, housing, transportation, legal fees, even post-death payments like funeral and burial. And so we get a lot of questions on this, like, so for example, I'm going on a vacation. Can I use funds from my ABLE account to pay for that? Yes, right? Anything that's going to help an individual improve or maintain their health, independence, or quality of life is a qualified disability expense. For transportation, I get a report on how people use their prepaid loadable card, and we see some ride-sharing services on there, down payments on vehicles. For housing, it's anywhere from mortgage to insurance, taxes, any of those types of payments. Health could be for copays, upcoming visits, dental appointments, whatever you need. It is to be construed broadly, which is what the final regulations say. But that means, you can't just give the money away. I know it's that holiday season and we can't just go and purchase everybody else a gift. That's probably not going to be a qualified because it's not tied back to the individual and helping them improve their life. And so that's important to know. Other expenses that are probably not going to be qualified are alcohol, tobacco, gambling, and giving the money away. So those are things to consider, but just about anything else could be construed as a qualified disability expense. Now, I know what many of you are thinking, probably saying this is too good to be true. How much is this going to cost the individual? What kind of fees are associated? And the great thing is generally there are no fees associated with opening an account. So there's no enrollment fee outside of that minimum $25 deposit, which is that individual's money. Our investment options do have an investment administration fee that range 0 to 0.29% annualized of the account balance, which is, if you think long-term $3 if you had $1,000 in there, so not too much. And the FDIC often has no fees tied to it. If somebody wants paper statements instead of going online to download them, there's an annual $10 fee for that. And then, as I mentioned, that optional Able Visa prepaid card does have a $2.50 a month transaction fee that's recouped off of the card. But we truly, as a state-run program, try to make this the best value for Floridians. As I mentioned, there's no application or monthly maintenance fee, no paper check request fee, and you can have the reliance and assurance that the state of Florida is managing this, which manages for prepaid, and they've been doing that for 30 plus years now. So good thing to think about. I want to go ahead, and before we bring in our second part of this presentation, Samantha Lebron, I just want to leave you with some areas on how you could reach us. AbleUnited.com is probably your first stop to go. We also have available resources in Spanish and Haitian Creole. And then you can also, maybe you want to have a one-off and a deeper discussion in a certain area, you can always book an appointment with me on our Contact Us page. Call customer service. They're very good at answering generalized questions. So I'm going to leave that on there for a minute while we bring on Samantha Lebron, hopefully. She is settled and can join us to talk about things about Able accounts and how she is utilizing her Able accounts and how she heard about it. So as we wait for her to join, hopefully you're still there. Samantha, let me see.
I am here.
All right. There she is. Samantha, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing, Ron?
Doing awesome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can just see our lovely faces instead.
I love how you're being so festive today.
You like that? It was a last minute touch. I saw it in the house somewhere and I was like, you know what? Why not? It might grab everybody's attention for 5 to 10 seconds. So, well, great. So I'll give you a little bit of background about our brand ambassador program and why we love Samantha so much. So as you know, as a state, I don't have a family member who has an Able account, nor do I administer on anybody's behalf. And I remember specifically, how this program started with a group of parents that were saying, we need a way to start saving for our children, and seeing firsthand how they're utilizing their accounts, and they can speak from background and personally more so than I can. And so with that knowledge, we've solicited and have a handful, about 20 or so, what we call brand ambassadors across the state. These are parents, individuals themselves, like Samantha, who actually have and manage an Able account. And so we are so thankful for them. And thank you for Samantha, who's a world-renowned speaker, advocate. I run into her all the time at all kinds of events. And so we are so lucky and blessed to have her. So Samantha, tell us a little bit about who you are and then how you heard about Able United.
So yes, John, I am a disability advocate. I got involved in the community around 2019. I actually found out about Able through my best friend because I started at that time a full-time job with benefits, which is like the dream come true for a person with a disability. But then you have the worry of, okay, am I making too much money? Is stuff going to be taken away? And she was like, you have to get an able like right away. So that's how I actually signed up and got my able. But once I got involved in the community as a disability advocate, I wanted to be involved with able even more. And, you know, I am so grateful for the opportunity that Able United has made me one of their brand ambassadors, because I love what I do and I love meeting new people and families at all the events that I go. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you. Thank you for taking your friend's advice, right? Because I think word of mouth is probably one of our number one ways that people will find out and actually get enrolled is, you know, they ask around. I see some, you know, Facebook groups or other online communities that are like, hey, has anybody heard about this? Is this legit? Does this work? So knowing that you've been a brand ambassador for a few years, what kind of events do you enjoy going to?
I like going to, what is it, the big events. So like the fundraiser walks where there's just so many people and so many activities going on. It's so great because everyone just comes up to the table and is having a good time and wants to find out about ABLE, and I get to educate them, but I also get to find out what their story is and they get to find out what my story is. So it's a very nice environment to be in when I do the big events. The smaller events are good too, you know, letting, you know, I do a lot of, what is it, parent night groups where parents will come and will want to learn about ABLE because, you know, the kids are in school and they want to prepare. But I personally, I like the big events where there's a lot of activities going on.
Yeah. So it reminds me of the annual family cafe that I know we're a sponsor of and we've attended several times. I've met you there multiple times. You know, 5 to 10,000 you know, individuals and families and advocates and resources. It's a great event. I'm looking forward to it next, I think it's the first weekend in June. So that should be fun time. But yeah, you know, I like the more intimate one-on-one. I love to be able to sit down and really see the light bulb go off where they connect the dots and seeing how ABLE accounts could really benefit them. So get a little bit personal here because you've had an ABLE account for quite a few years now, right?
Yes, I've had it for quite a few years now.
And are you using it like just as a savings and investment tool right now? Have you actually had to use some of the funds in the account?
So the plan was to save up for a wheelchair accessible van because I am a full-time wheelchair user, but I'll be honest with you all, I love having an ABLE because, you know, emergencies do happen. So there have been times where I've had to make withdrawals to pay medical bills or pay a house bill, but, you know, it's been there. And that's what gives me the peace of mind is that it's there just in case. But, you know, once things, you know, normalize and whatnot, the ultimate goal is to get that wheelchair accessible van with some of the ABLE funds.
Awesome. And I think that's a true testament, right? Because we don't know what tomorrow holds us and what's coming down the road. And I think that's what I hear from a lot of families is they love ABLE accounts, just as you mentioned, the flexibility, right? Where it's, I have a 5, 10, 15-year goal where I want to save for that wheelchair van. I want to be able to put a down payment on a home. But things happen, right? I mean, we just lived through a crazy pandemic, hurricanes. If you're new to Florida or if you're not in Florida, you know, every hurricane season, you just kind of, you hope for the best, pray for the best, and kind of just wait it out because you never know. We think of our friends down there in Southwest Florida that are going through this who have lost homes or having to be relocated. I remember when Hurricane Michael came in the Panhandle and talking to an ABLE account holder who had to use some of her ABLE funds to relocate. And that's one of the testaments of an ABLE account is being able to use it for those long-term goals or those emergency type benefits. So that's great. So thinking about how you've heard about ABLE accounts and you're one of the earlier adopters, you know, what would you tell somebody who's hesitant or not knowing if an ABLE account is right for them?
I would tell them that get one because it gives you peace of mind. You know, you may not use it all the time, but it's there. because like I just said, I've had to use it for a house bill or a medical bill, or, it's flexible. So,
Mm,
let it be there for your peace of mind. And honestly, it takes less than 10 minutes to set it up. And the customer service department is great. They will answer all your questions because they did that for me in the beginning. I had my questions. I wanted to make sure, okay, is this right for me? Is everything going to be okay with my benefits? And they reassured me of that and set me up.
that's awesome. And to your point, right, is I think one of the other flexible things we don't talk about is the contributions, right? People feel like, oh, I have to put in, $100 a month, or I have to, try to max it out, which is great if you can, but there is no additional minimum systematic contributions. Like, so like a lot of products, it's like, oh, you set it up, but you have to pay $25 a month or $50 into the account. But after that initial $25 deposit, you pick and choose, right? You can, set it to be $5 a month. I met a handful of families that's all that's in their budget right now. But as you mentioned, it gives them that peace of mind saying, hey, if something does happen, I have something on the back end. And the great thing about our program is we run, different competitions or incentives all the time to get you involved with. And so I want to go ahead, if you are on social media, check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Able United. I believe we have a promo going on for the next week or so, where we're giving anybody an iPad. All you got to do is just share with us of what you're thankful for, and tag us in it, and then you'll be able to be entered into winning an iPad. So just some of the things we're doing, trying to give back. That's awesome. So Samantha, you've been to events like me, you've gone out and talked to people, and in your community, other people you've talked with, are you people that are using their ABLE accounts and maybe somewhere unique or different than what you have?
I have met some people and some of my friends, they use it for training for school,
Oh,
or they'll use it for, because they want to start their own business. So it's, we're able, there's so many things you can do with it. I feel like it's more than just a savings account. Like, it gives you opportunities that we didn't have before ABLE, honestly.
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, to know that where this started, right, was families primarily in the Down syndrome community were like, hey, I can't put money aside because my child turns 18 or something happens to us, we wouldn't be eligible for Medicaid or SSI benefits. And so it really wasn't, there was a lot of creative ways to put money aside. I've heard stories of grandma's mattress where, we hide extra money under grandma's mattress, or buying gift cards or something to where it's like, all right, we're trying to hide this money. And now the great thing is you can have an ABLE account and not worry about it jeopardizing those types of benefits. So that's awesome. I'm thinking of just some of the people that I've run into. I think I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago of an individual who all she wanted to do was live on her own. She always lived with dad, but she always wanted a place on her own, and was able to put a down payment and pay for some property in a mobile home, which was amazing for her. And I encourage everybody, if you haven't checked out our blog post on our website, under our resources, you can go to the blog post, or towards the bottom of our home screen, you can click on our latest story. But we have some great, I think Samantha, I think you're on there as well, some great faces of ABLE, some people who have ABLE accounts and how they're utilizing them. So it's an awesome one-stop shop to go and listen and hear other people's stories, and just the cool success stories people have had with an ABLE account. So if you haven't, the first part of this was really ABLE United 101. Thank you, Samantha, for joining us. Feel free if you want to do some Q&A if you want, or if you have somewhere to build, feel free to run. But thank you so much for just sharing a little bit of your story and spending some time with us this morning.
Not a problem. I love doing it, and ABLE is great. So anytime.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, if you haven't had your question answered yet, we'll go ahead and do some quick Q&A here. And so I'm going to go ahead and respond to these in order. First question I have is from Kathy. Says, how do you properly report the savings in the ABLE account on the annual payee report from Social Security. This is this year is the first time I've had a savings to report. So that's a great question. So as I mentioned, generally funds in the ABLE account are disregarded as a resource for supplemental security income purposes. So the great thing is you don't have to report the ABLE account. They do want you to know, they do want to know that you have an ABLE account. So you might have to provide like a quarterly statement. Really, the only concern they have is when you take money out of your ABLE account and you retain it past the end of the month. So make sure you have those quarterly statements available, because that's one of the things they're going to ask. Let's see. So hopefully that answers your question on most likely it's just a quarterly statement they'll need. What can the money be spent on? Trips, dental. So that's the great benefit of an ABLE account, and as the qualified disability expenses is to be construed broadly. Really, it goes back to, does it help improve or maintain somebody's health, independence, which is pretty broad, or quality of life, which is also broad. So they've said trips, dental. Yes, a trip could be a quality of life. That might be a sense of independence. It could help just give somebody a quality of life. I know that's why I take vacation. And of course, dental, right? And anything that's going to improve their health or their independence, that would be an acceptable qualified expense. Is it how best to pay for rent is once per year? Okay, this is a question from Joseph. As I mentioned, there's a couple ways you can go about if you're using your ABLE account to pay for a housing related expense. You can set up a systematic distribution to where there's a form, you would fill that out and say, okay, on the 3rd of every month, I want $500 out of my ABLE account to be sent to my landlord or my mortgage company. You can do that. Or you can call customer service and say, hey, cut a check, send it to my taxes or whatever housing related expenses. You can do that. Alternatively, you can say, put the money into your connected bank account and then write a check or use a debit card to pay those housing related expenses. However, it may, something you have to be wary of if you're getting towards the end of the month. So, but yeah, there's quite a few ways you can go about doing it. Is a question from Jessica. Can I use money from my daughter's ABLE account towards a down payment for a home she will live in, but not in her name? This is a good question, right? And so it goes back to, is she benefiting from this new home? Could she probably pay the entire down payment? Most likely, right? Because family is going to live there as well. But yes, some of her funds could be used to make that down payment if it's going to improve her life, right? So maybe no longer will she have to share a room with somebody, or maybe it'll be closer to a school that's better suited for her needs. So those will be types of appropriate qualified disability expenses. So yes, it could be used to help make that down payment. Here's a question on the preloadable debit card that we have. Can the Visa card have a limit on it so much per month? Yes, so you get to pick and choose how much you want to preload on it. So it's not automatically tied to the entire ABLE account balance. It's a loadable ABLE card. So you would have to say, I want to put $100 on it or $500 on it, and it will stay on there until all of that is used. There are some limits on how much you can put on there. I think it's like 15,000 per day. I don't know if that's, if that's something you're interested in having that much on there. But we see families say, hey, I'll put $100 on it. You can go out with your friends to the movies or out to eat. And it gives that somebody that sense of independence and quality of life. So good question, but you get to pick and choose. And just a little bit more, that prepaid loadable card is through a company called TrueLink Financial. So it's a separate enrollment process for there. But on theirs, you'll actually be able to track expenditures. You'll get a little area to make notes. It'll tell you what retailer or where the funds were spent for. It's a little more broad than the the typical distributions from an ABLE account. So it's a cool little platform to use. All right. Can a client, this is from Rudy, can a client transfer money from his guardianship account to an ABLE account? So I believe this is like talking about Social Security. Yes, you can put Social Security funds in an ABLE account. The Social Security Administration did clarify that was an allowable distribution or contribution to an ABLE account as Social Security funds. We're working on currently that hopefully a release early next year would allow individuals to have their Social Security funds deposited directly into the ABLE account. So that might be a feature. Currently, it still has to go through a checking account and then withdrawn or contributed to the ABLE account. So, so that's something to keep in mind. But yes, it can be a receiver of ABLE funds. All right. And I think that answers your second question as well, Rudy. Here's the next one from Patricia. My nephew does work at an adult program and receives income. Can his income be automatically deposited into his ABLE account? We do have a direct deposit forms on our website under our resources tab. It is a burdensome process for the employer where they have to cut a check and send it in and it gets deposited. Similar to the Social Security direct deposit, we're working on a way to allow that a little more flexible in next year, hopefully. So that's something to keep in mind. Important thing to note, that income would still count as earnings, so it could impact their SSI benefits. But there is a way currently, it's a little tedious for the employer to do it. Here's the next question we have. This is from anonymous attendee. I love that, which is fine. We already have an ABLE account. We're getting ready to apply for SSDI. Should we disclose that we have an account and how much funds are in it? So Social Security Disability Insurance is an earned benefit, whether that be the individual's work history or a family member may be approaching retirement or have a disability themselves. And so now they're eligible for SSDI. You can mention the ABLE account, but they should not count it as a resource for that individual. We're required as a state agency to submit all ABLE transactions and ABLE account information monthly to the Social Security Administration. So they're going to know one way or the other, but they shouldn't count it as a resource to impact your eligibility. Here's a question from Charles. What happens if you go over the $16,000 amount for the year because several people contributed above your own regular contribution and you did not know you now exceeded it? Well, the good thing is, Charles, you don't have to worry. Our system will reject those extra contributions. So once it hits the maximum amount, we'll send the contributions back to the contributor. Alternatively, sometimes we do reach out and say, hey, did you work at all this year? And maybe we can count those contributions to the able to work portion. Because if a beneficiary, the individual that owns the account, the individual with a disability, if they're working, they can actually contribute above that $16,000 amount. And so that's typically the process is how it would happen. So you don't have to worry about it ever, if you accidentally contributing too much, because our system rejects those. It's a good question. All right. Let's see. I think I answered that one. I'm just going through these questions and great questions. So if you purchase a vehicle, this is from Jacqueline, if you purchase a vehicle through the ABLE account, does that vehicle then become an asset which affects the SSI benefits? How do you title it? Good question. For additional rules on SSI, they do allow individuals to have one vehicle titled to their name. So that shouldn't impact it. But definitely talk to your local Social Security office or benefit counselor on the specifics. But generally, you're allowed to have one vehicle. This is from Sherry. Information about the Able to Work account that can be saved. Is Able for Work a separate account? No. When you make the contribution, and this is the thing I should have highlighted, when you make a contribution to the Able account, you get to pick and choose. Is it a regular contribution or an able to work contribution? We just use that internally for categorization portion, so we know that you're not in jeopardy of hitting the 16,000 amount and then have these extra funds. So you get to pick and choose, but it's all built into the same system. We just count those contributions as either able to work or regular. All right. Answer live. I'm just going in here answering these questions. Like, do I have to report an able account when you do a Medicaid review? So this is a good question. As I mentioned, able accounts are not subject as a resource or an asset for Medicaid, EBT, SNAP benefits, any of those. You can, but they should not be counted as a resource. For example, FAFSA, F-A-F-S-A, that's the student application for somebody going off to college. They actually put in their FAQs, do not put able accounts. So that's something to keep in mind because they don't count able accounts as a resource. All right, here's another question. My 39-year-old son has schizophrenia and agnosia. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that. We do not have guardianship, but do have rep payee for Social Security. We cannot allow him access to the money he wiped out in IRA and other accounts. Is there a way around this? So unfortunately, the way the able accounts are structured, they cannot be restricted to where the owner, the individual with a disability, does not have access. So if they are capable and can recite their Social Security number and call customer service, we will honor their request. So that's unfortunate, is that we can't restrict the funds in an able account if the owner who is 18 or older requests them. Next question from Jill. Can money from an able account be used to pay for a companion to take a person with a disability out in the community twice a week? Of course, right? I mean, that's a great use of able account funds to give somebody that quality of life to get out of the house, especially when it's a beautiful day, which, we're in the fall, winter of Florida, so not as humid. But yeah, that would be an appropriate use of expenditures of an able account to give that person a better life and some more independence. Okay, good question. This is from Luis. In my son's guardian parent, should I put my name or my son's name on the account? So if you're opening this on behalf of an individual, it can be the guardian or parent. We're going to require that person's information as well. And so it will be still titled to the son, but with the ALR's information or the authorized legal representative's information on the account as well. So if you were to contact customer service, we could talk to either party. How do you make deposits and withdrawals to the able account? Couple ways. Good question, Mary Alice. You can send in a check. You can do an electronic transfer to a connected bank account. If you have a family member, you can actually set up what they call a gifting page, which would allow you to accept online contributions via ACH or a debit card. So encourage people to do that. I know I have a couple of friends who try to hit me up every Christmas with their link to their able gifting page saying, hey, John, send me money. I said, I'm not the piggy bank. I'm a state employee. All right. Here's a question from James. I opened an able account for my son last year. He turns 18 next year. And we, dad and mom, are becoming his guardians. Do we need to submit anything to able during that transition from parent of a minor to a guardian? This is a very good question. So there was concern, I think, when able accounts first launched, and luckily the Treasury heard our concerns and with their final regulations clarified that, where, what happens if you have a parent who's a minor and the minor is now considered an adult or of legal age? Do you freeze the able account until we get paperwork? But what's interesting is the final regs clarified that the term parent is familial in relationship, not necessarily If you're a parent, regardless of your child's age, you're still a parent. I have 3 boys, 10, 7, and 3. But if they're 30 and I'm 60 or whatever, I'm still a parent, regardless, right? And so, no, there's nothing additional you need to provide us. But if there ever comes a point where you think he could manage his own account, even though it sounds like he's going to be a guardian, there's some paperwork for that. But no, there's nothing you need to do. I'm a parent of a beneficiary. I opened an account with my name on it, but now I realize I've opened it in my son's name. Can I change it now? Call customer service. So sometimes it can be a little confusing when the enrollment process is, because we'll ask about the beneficiary, the individual with a disability. Then we'll ask for your information. And if you think you've messed up, call customer service and they'll be able to walk you through the necessary steps to get that fixed. There might be a form you have to fill out and send it. Paula asked, this question was asked already, but I missed it. Will an ABLE affect his ability to receive SSI? No. ABLE accounts do not count as a resource for SSI. To get started, visit ableunited.com. That's where you go to enroll. I'm going to answer all the questions. This is great. That's a good question. Does an ABLE account, this is from Sue, does an ABLE account earn interest? I have a CD for my daughter. Should I cash it in and put it in the ABLE account? So I cannot find financial or legal advice. However, I can tell you that our products that we offer, some are in the market, some are not, like our FDIC option. And our FDIC option is, it's based on what the federal treasury upper limit is, minus 15 basis points, which is some financial jargon. But basically, it's making about 3.5% right now, and potentially a little bit more if the feds raise their interest rate again. So yeah, so it could earn interest, and that interest would not count as income or be taxable. So you can try that out. And then last question here, Melody says, can you go over again about what happens to the money when the person passes away? So generally, funds in an ABLE account, if a beneficiary passes away, can still be used to pay for outstanding qualified disability expenses. So maybe they have an outstanding mortgage, cell phone bill, and it can also be used to pay for funeral and burial expenses. If there's any funds left over, there's a couple of things. They could, if they have what they call a successor owner beneficiary, that is a person who is a sibling who also qualifies for ABLE, can be listed on the account, and those leftover funds would go to them. However, that's not everybody. In those situations, leftover funds would then go to the estate of the beneficiary if they're 18 or older. And so depending on if they have a will or if it's a probate asset, it would go through that process and be, most likely back to the family. If they're over the age of 55, their state may be subject to Medicaid recovery. So that's something to think about as your beneficiary of the ABLE account approaches 55, that you might want to have that account spin out. And then finally, Susan asked, is this being recorded? Yes. Check back on our YouTube website. I'll do another shameless plug for that. youtube.com/AbleUnited. That will have all of our pre-recorded and previously recorded webinars, as well as a ton of information and great webinars. So seeing that being it, I just want to thank everybody for taking some time this morning. Thanks, Samantha, again. I think she's already dropped, but appreciate her willingness to come on and share her personal story about ABLE United accounts. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday season. And until we meet next time, we hope that you choose ABLE United as your way to save for a better life experience. Take care. Thank you.